Good afternoon, everybody. Get the meeting started. I'm Hacker, president of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. A little nervous. It's only my 39th meeting this year that I have started, but maybe by the last one, I'll have it down. I'll have a little about this. But anyway, it's been a great year. We're not quite there yet, but for those of you who are guests, the Rotary year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So this is our second to last meeting of the year. And we'll get started first, though, as we do every meeting, with an invitation from Tom Keller and Pledge of Allegiance. Tom?
You'll break the nervousness. Get all by your heads for us. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here today for the joy of Rotary, for the absolute privilege to go out in the community, to spread our sunshine with folks, to love the unloved, to spend time with those who have learning disabilities or handicaps, or any other thing in this world that makes them, that gives them need to be loved. And we hope that Rotary is something that brings that to those folks. And that the brotherhood between us and the bond that we share is strengthened by every time that we leave this place and go out in the world to do good in your name. Thank you for this food, for the service of those here, and for everyone on. Amen. You can all please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Okay, now speak Charlie. I know this on Zoom today. Charlie, on the screen here. It's not the same right now, you Charlie. The Rotary region, but it was there, and we do want to let everybody on Zoom today. Charlie is still recovering a bit from his gallbladder surgery, but he's fine. We expect the next meeting, but welcome. We adjust the volume, the mic a little closer to our mouths, speaker mouths, so hopefully these new folks can hear everything clearly today. We also want to welcome any guests we have today. I know we have one. Grace, would you like to introduce your guest today? Grace, stand up and check.
My partner is first real estate, college together, I lived there, and didn't say to people that people did it, like a great group of people, and got everything ended.
Yeah, so like Rick said, I'm a commercial real estate with them. I work on the land side of the land and help developers find land and business owners find land to build a property on. So, we'll call you all. And again, remember the budget's on the table. We're nearing the end of the year. And at the next meeting of the year, we're going to count it all up, including the money from that meeting, and present it to a representative from the Dementia Alliance, North Carolina, which the money goes to. So please be generous with any spare change or writing on the monopoly dollars to put in. And also, if you'd like to come up and see if there are any happy dollars. Listen, right to the buffet line.
So I just figured this out, not too long ago when I was on the ground, but apparently. Grayson, how are you? Pretty. How was my Jordan Rotary? So this is my second year. So I got to like 20 years.
It's summer's almost starting, graduations have happened. Tommy, the generous, contribution that covers a lot of things. June 30th, as I mentioned, is the end of the Rotary year. That's our finish line. But we are as a club, and I promise I will, our chests are going to be forward, breaking the tape all the way until June 30th. You're going to hear in the meeting today about things we have planned for the month and going into the very end of the month. So we're not skidding into the end of the year, we're going full speed until we break the tape. And then we'll start, and we'll talk about this next meeting about our Rotary year for next year under President Kerry. That's great. But anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Upcoming meetings. Next week, next Monday, no meeting because of Juneteenth, National Independence Day holiday. June 26th, though, as you can see, we have a final meeting and even more planned than what I promised before. So please know this is going to be a great meeting, and you don't want to miss it. So we will be celebrating a lot. There'll be awards, some reflections. We're carrying our GS plan, so it should be a good meeting. And then, of course, for Independence Day, 4th of July, we won't meet after that. So hope to see as many of you as possible. For those of you on Zoom, please strike out the person if you can. Otherwise, it'll be Zoom as well. Last thing, last pitch, because registration ends on June 15th for the district induction banquet, at which all of the club presidents are formally inducted as presidents. So our chairman will be inducted formally by the district as president and the district governor. But it's a fun event. It's a nice dinner, cocktails, Preston Blair and Gary. So please see Linda from TV for the year-end banquet. I don't know if you noticed from the newsletter this morning, I don't know, it's always hard to tell how many read the whole thing, but at the bottom, artificial intelligence has come to the club. And so ChatGPT, the AI program was asked to best describe the Rotary Club of Raleigh. You're going to go back and look at the newsletter and click on the link, and you'll see how AI, what AI thinks of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. Just see how that turned out. And then I'm going to ask Carrie to come up and talk about her and her dad, Eric's trip down under to the Rotary International Convention in Melbourne. Carrie.
Thank you, President Tom. My name is Carrie. I'm president-elect of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. For most of y'all know, but for you new members, the Rotary Club, our club, allows the president-elect to go to the Rotary International Convention each year, which was a fantastic experience. I had the opportunity to go with Dad, President nominee Eric Larson. Raise your hand up. If you don't know him, go meet him after the meeting, and it was just a fun time being there with him. Do I have the clicker up here, Tom?
Yes, right. Yes.
Okay.
Go down to go up.
Okay.
Yep.
So this year's convention, as Tom said, was in Melbourne, Australia. So it was quite the travel to get there. I think we spent a total of 24 hours flying out to San Francisco, then to Melbourne. I love flying, so it was a really cool experience. But here we are, a little bit jet lagged the day we arrived, and we went and got registered, proudly holding our badges up. So this is the day before the opening ceremonies. So the next day, this is where it was, this beautiful Melbourne, Australia. They said I'd stay in Melbourne. Did I do that right? Melbourne, yeah. Melbourne, Australia. It was at Raleigh Arena. I kept on saying Laver. My husband's a big tennis fan, and I was corrected about that. So as you know, Raleigh River is where they have Australian Open every year. That's where they had the big general sessions each day. And it was a really cool venue. Melbourne, they had all sorts of tours that we could do. So opening session day, how many of y'all have been to an international convention? Yeah, it is quite the experience. In a few years, it's going to be in Calgary, Alberta, and I really recommend going. They do a flag ceremony for, I think it was 190 nations came out with their flags, and it was incredible. Everybody cheered for their nation. I think the Philippines and Taiwan were the loudest, which was neat. There were a lot of representatives from there. We heard from our wonderful RI President Jennifer Jones the first day, and they had quite the entertainment lineup. We heard the tenors were there in person, which was very neat. This guy right here, the member of the tenors, his grandfather was in Rotary, so he had great Rotary stories. The next day, the general session, this is a president of a club in Kiev, Ukraine. So he spoke about what Rotary's doing in Ukraine to help with some relief efforts there. And they also had representatives from Ukraine that stood up, and it was very powerful and really wonderful to meet and see some of the people from Ukraine. Here, Dad and I are with our district Governor Nathan Thomas, and he co-led one of the breakout sessions about multi-generational involvement in Rotary and ways that we can make sure we're involving all ages. It was great to hear him. He obviously, of course, did a fantastic job. And then that same day, we heard from 2024 through 25 upcoming president nominee Stephanie Ulrich. And she has a great vision for Rotary for her year, so she's going to be president during Dad's year as Rotary Club of Raleigh president. And we got to meet her in person, which was a really cool experience. And we gave her, of course, Rotary Club of Raleigh flag. These were our hosts for the week, two ladies. It's a mother and daughter team from Iceland. And they host a TV show in Iceland, and they were just very enthusiastic, really fun the whole week. The second day really talked a lot about polio now and how the work is not done. We're doing great things through Rotary and through the Rotary Foundation to help end polio, but we still need to kind of be pressing hard towards the finish line with that. Also had some wonderful speakers, great panel of international photographers, motivational speakers. This is the head coach of Canada's winning women's basketball team, and she was wonderful. And then this was author, I am blanking on his name, Doug, what was his name? Futurist. So he was there talking about his vision of the future. We also took multiple trips to the banner exchange, where I took about 40 of our banners and hung them up on this wall. And you go by and you pick up different banners from different clubs. These are just a few. Got one from Angola, Portugal, Club Lisboa, Estoril. I'm sorry, I'm not pronouncing that correctly, probably. Western Australia. It was great to meet so many Australian Rotarians. And this gentleman in the right picture, your left, was from Mumbai. So got to take pictures with some people, and also picked up our banner for this Rotary year, Create Hope in the World. And that's President McKinley's theme for the year. And we'll hear more about that in the next few weeks and starting in July. Here are our wonderful, again, last day, President Jennifer Jones, upcoming President McKinley in his wonderful kilt, and President nominee Stephanie Ulrich. So it's great to hear from all of them. And we got to meet President McKinley's beautiful family as well. So after that, we went on a little bit of an adventure, and I'll breeze through these quickly, to New Zealand. Who knows what that is? Any Lord of the Rings fans? Nobody? That is from the second movie, Etta Ross. And they actually set that up on the hill, to film it. It's not there anymore, but we made a hike to the mountain. And we went up there and took some beautiful pictures. That's one of Dad's pictures he took. And there he is happily jogging across the mountain. My mom and I, viewed from the top. And then, of course, we had to go to the International Antarctic Center. As a meteorologist, I love everything Arctic, and we saw little penguins, which were adorable. And that's my husband, Paul, and son, Johnny. And my mom and son exploring. And at the very end, we made it back safely home after our adventure. That's back. So very excited. I'm really charged up about this next year. And the theme Create Hope in the World. There's a lot of really great things President McKinley has planned. And we'll hear more about that in the next few weeks. So thank you all for the opportunity to be able to go. Really recommend, definitely go to an international convention at some point of your Rotary tenure, because it's an amazing experience. All right, thank you, President Tom.
Thank you, Carrie, and thanks to all of you dues-paying members. Because as you know, the club supports our incoming president financially to go to the conference. We think it's important to go to it, come back with a lot of fresh ideas about the coming year. Next year at this time, Eric will be standing at the lectern talking about Singapore. So, and thanks, Carrie. I'm glad you had a great time and came back home. Interesting, great ideas and information for next year. Come, let's turn around.
All right. For those of you that are here, you got a pretty good chance to win today. Let's see who we've got. David, before we win tonight.
Yeah,
That's all right. Yeah, we don't want you to read it. There we go. That's perfect. All right, we got 800 2026. Anybody? One of you has this ticket, I promise. We will, let me, oh, maybe it's server. Yeah, yeah. Oh, funny, there you
The
go.
winner is Surrey. That's Surrey.
You guys have fun with Nosy Neighbor today, because I'm not doing it.
We
I'll introduce it.
okay. We have a new host today for Nosy Neighbor. He's got to be.
No. Not everybody wants.
I thought you bring somebody even nosier than him in, so that's why I'm up here today. Chose Paul Corsa because he is my actual neighbor. And seems like he's been flying under the radar a little bit, so I thought it'd be a good idea to drag him up here and expose him a little bit. Paul, you want to tell us a little bit about your family, kind of work you do, type of clients you work with?
Yeah, so like Paul Corso, I'm a real estate broker, and been married for 7 years. My beautiful wife Vaughn, live in North Raleigh, that was vacation. We have a 9-month-old.
All right, and well, something most people do not know about you.
So I grew up in Eastern Virginia, working on crab and fishing boats. So I did Warrior's job of pulling crabs and also Warrior's job of pulling fishing with burning stingrays every summer. So it made me realize I had a very weak back and a strong mind. I'm here to tell real estate.
And your years of business, what's one of the most memorable things that happened, moments, good or bad?
Probably so when the pandemic hit, I just kind of hit my stride real estate. I was like, I think I'm gonna make it. And then boom, pandemic, and went from kind of not losing confidence, but making sure the market was going, and then surviving in that market where you show up to a showing and 50 other cars there, and being able to kind of get through that and drive through that was something that was just really good experience.
Yeah, if you don't know Paul, haven't talked to him, come grab him sometime, say hi and chat with him. He's a good guy and a good neighbor.
Our service chair, Jim,
Afternoon, folks, Richard Haggard, service chair of our club. Two projects in June. First is our selection drive for No Woman, No Girl. As many of you know, No Woman, No Girl is an organization that helps empower women who are going through crisis or transition. You know, I thought about this morning. I have a colleague, Tracy Smith, is a corporate relations. We have this routine where open the door and Tracy helps find partnerships with corporations. And, you know, Tracy wouldn't be able to go to work if she didn't have some of these items. And she wouldn't help us find these partnerships. So, you know, No Woman, No Girl helps little girls go to school, go to camp, helps women and helps break the cycle of poverty. So if any of you can help me collect these items, I'll come to your home, I'll come to your place of work. You're to bring them here. So far, we're probably about 300 items at the end out of a goal of 2,000. Thank you so much for all those who collected. We got until June 30th. Now remember, we're not meeting next Monday. And we have our final meeting coming up. So time's a ticket. So please reach out to me. I'm more than happy. If any of you know me, book drive, I'll go anywhere and collect anywhere. We also have the our Dick's Park event. It's coming up this Saturday, Juneteenth celebration. Sarah Reeves, as you know, is very involved with Dick's Park Conservancy, and we have an opportunity to work the booth. 2 shifts, 12:30 or 3:30. We'll be doing this for our next calendar year as well. So it's our first year doing this. So please reach out to Sarah. So I think there's a brief orientation involved with this, but we would love to really dive back into that. We have a long history. Our club has a long history with this Dick's Park. So looking forward to reigniting that partnership. So thank you very much for your service to this club and the service to the community.
Thank you, Richard. And Sarah is right here. So if you have any questions about this event, please be sure to call her. She's here at the meeting and you're here. Again, for the No Woman, No Girl collection, Kathy Stewart did, I heard from, she just announced the project to her coworkers and put a box in. And you saw in the newsletter this morning, her full box that she delivered to Richard. So it's easy for anybody here, just at your office. Take a screenshot of the newsletter this morning and just send an email announcing we're collecting for this. The Rotary Club is, there's a box on my door of the office, and it's as easy as that. So please consider doing that. We are also fortunate to have Jessica Simpson helping support Harrison in our membership committee. And fortunate that she stepped up and will be helping out with all things membership as Harrison continues to do the great job that he's doing. Harrison is on vacation, so Jessica will be filling in today and have a few things to go through. So Jessica.
Thank you, Jordan. Everyone. Today we have a second meeting for Eric Soderberg, but since he's not in attendance today, we're going to push that off to next week. Also, we have a new member induction, Laura Bronhoff. You want to come up here. Laura's membership application has been reviewed and approved in accordance with the Constitution and bylaw. We will now proceed in admitting Laura into membership in the Rotary Club of Raleigh and the Friendship of Rotary throughout the world. First, we have a few things to do. One, will you join us as we strive to live a life of service above self?
Will you join us in our activities for service projects and fundraising activities in support of our community?
Question 3, will you join us in supporting Rotary's efforts worldwide, which focus on these 7 areas: promoting peace, disease prevention, providing clean water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic and community development, and protecting the environment.
And fellow Rotarians, will you join me in fostering and supporting Laura as she joins us in our pursuit of adding value to our community through service above self? Right now, I'll ask the responders to continue with your Rotary emblem.
So I'll take it out. Yeah.
Thanks, Maggie.
Is it magnet?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Feel everybody watching me while I work my big fingers.
And also, what Tommy should get that out, Laura, I did want to present you with the history book of our club. So this is 2014 for our 100-year anniversary, and a special bronze Rotary coin before we test on the back. Good luck. Yeah.
Here we go. All right. Can I do it this time? Okay. There we go. All right. I think I got it. There we go.
So wanting to direct everyone to the upcoming service social, that's gonna be on Thursday, June 29th at the Yard House. About to make that at 5:30. We also have a new member orientation, June 27th at 5:45 p.m. at Tonka. And that is for all new members who have not already attended a new member orientation. The last one was last December. And so details will be sent on July 1st. And of course, direct any new member inquiries or questions to Harrison.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jessica. And please be sure to come out to our last service social on June 29th. That will be the last event of the Rotary year. It's great to hang out with you all at the art house, and it should be a lot of fun. Don't forget the snacks, of course, to bring to the to bring to that event as well. The nutritional snacks that we distribute to school kids in the area in need. Birthdays: Chris Gentry, June 12th. Where's Chris? Happy birthday, Chris. And Katie Mullen, June 13th. And Corey, if you're listening, happy birthday on June 17th. And then we have a 23-year anniversary on June 24th. Chuck and Mallory Underwood. Chuck, happy anniversary. And now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who's many doesn't need too much of an introduction for those of us fortunate to have come to him since he's joined our club. Nonetheless, though, I think it's interesting. Even though you think you know someone, you don't know a lot of the details that sometimes you're too modest to tell people about. And I've learned a lot about Patty's background. I'd like to thank some of that to you before he comes up and speaks to us today. The formal introduction is our speaker today is the Reverend Patrick J. Rooney. And Patty is a retired Lutheran clergy, having served parishes in central Pennsylvania with 10 additional years in the Roman Catholic religious order. He has served on numerous committees in his assemblies, and in his retirement has served as interim pastor in 6 congregations. Patty is the author of a number of published sermons with 3 different groups, including 10 published under the title The Perfect Sacrifice. Patty is a founding member of the Society of the Holy Trinity, a Lutheran order and Presbyterian, which now numbers almost 200 pastors in the United States and Canada. He served as dean, as general secretary, and in 2015 was elected senior superior general of the society. He has taught widely at retreats and other venues across the United States and Canada, and are all 23 of the society chapters. Patty is a native of England and completed his undergraduate studies at St. Mary's College, London, studied philosophy at Catholic University of America, and has a master's in counseling from Shippensburg University, and completed his student studies at Gettysburg Seminary. He's been married to his wife Sally for 3 years, 2 grown children, and 3 grandchildren. Within Rotary, Patty was previously a member of the Rotary Club of York, Pennsylvania, president of that club in 2016, with 15 years of permanent attendance, and he served on more than 20 club committees and received the President's Certificate of Appreciation for Service Above Self, and was awarded the Certificate of Excellence for service to that club. He also is a recipient of the Avenues of Service Citation from Rotary International. Patty served as a district governor up in Pennsylvania from 2019 to 2020, and he currently serves as chair of the Peace Fellowship Committee Subcommittee and as a member of the District Foundation Committee. Patty will serve as district foundation chair for 3 years until 2027 for the district. And also will be taking over as chair, Mayor Carson, in July of this year, in charge of our own foundation. Patty is a member of the Public Plus Society of District 7710 and a member of the Paul Harris Society and a major donor level 2 to the Rotary Foundation. Fortunate to have Patty conclude our speaker series for this year. Patty, welcome, and we're looking forward to the presentation.
I've got to admit, that coming to talk to a room like this about leadership is a bit, as we say in England, like bringing coals to Newcastle, which means that it's redundant because that's where the coal comes from, in Newcastle. I'm sure that most of you have had experience and training in your occupations and in other opportunities through Rotary, particularly through the Rotary Leadership Institute, to talk about leadership. So I'm not going to talk about the standard classic ideas and understandings of leadership. I'm going to share with you some of my own perspectives, what I think is important about leadership for us as Rotarians, and spend a little time talking about the different characteristics that I see as critical if we are indeed to continue to grow and develop as a positive organization. Now, I've been a leader most of my life. Including the great title of being student librarian when I was at school. This has taken me, you can tell it's me because of the size of the ears. This is when I was a student librarian. It was my first role in leadership, and it was an important position in our school in England. And by the way, I think I was destined to be a Rotarian even then, because as you can see, I have 3 pins, and you know we Rotarians love our pins. Now, some will say that was the height of my leadership skills. But I'd like to disagree. I think it's important to think that I've grown on. I've been a leader most of my life, as I said. But the issue in the end is not what we did, but how we did it. To illustrate that, I want to begin by making a confession. But a confession is a good thing even for a preacher to do. What confession do I need to make? I need to make a confession that I've not always been the best leader. I've not always been a good leader. I've not always been an effective leader. I think one of the important things about leadership is first to acknowledge that indeed we have not been everything that we would hope that we had been. To acknowledge ourselves, to acknowledge and accept that we've not always been a good leader, is to say that we have indeed made a mess sometimes, that we missed some opportunities, that we learn from our failure. And one of the keys to good learning, I think, then is to acknowledge when we have messed up, when we've alienated others, or when we've driven them away. To acknowledge one's shortcomings is to take that first step in fixing the problems and get back to your leadership, and make it on track. But the other side of acknowledging your weakness is to acknowledge your strengths. While I've messed up sometimes, I know that I am a good leader. But I don't say that to boast, because indeed boasting is not an effective leadership tool. No one wants to be around anybody who puffs themselves up all the time, makes them seem like the most important person in the world. But don't fail to recognize and acknowledge your own gifts for leadership. Don't fail to acknowledge that you can be an effective and powerful leader. Don't be coy about it, but be confident. Confidence is important. It's going to help us through the tough times. Confidence is going to be necessary when we step up to challenge our club. And I think of Richard coming up on a regular basis and challenging us to do the work that we need to do in our community. There's a challenge we face when we take on a global grant for a local project in our community. That requires us to have confidence, to push into areas in which we might not feel comfortable. Without boasting, I believe that confidence makes a good leader. I can do this job. I can do this job as well as any Rotarian who come before me. Kerry, you can do this job. You can be a good and effective president, as good as any of the presidents who come before you with confidence to acknowledge that you indeed have that skill. And a confident leader is going to have two other characteristics that I think are important. And those characteristics are truth and trust. Being honest with yourself is only the beginning, because being honest with others is equally important. Now, I'm not getting into politics here, because after all, I am not a citizen of this country. I am a monarchist. It's me and my king. I would prefer me and my queen, but I'm stuck with the king now. So I'm not going to tell you. But it's me and my king. I'm a monarchist, so I'm not getting into politics here. But as an observer, I would have to say that one of the problems that I think faces our culture and society today is the lack of either truth or trust. And I believe the two things go hand in hand. A good leader always speaks the truth, even when it's hard to hear. In my life, and especially in my ministry, I've had sometimes to tell people the truth. It's not always been pleasant, it's not always been easy. Sometimes I had to tell the truth to people who would prefer not to hear it. But a good leader, a good and effective leader always speaks the truth. Good truth, bad truth, fun truth, sad truth, smooth truth, gritty truth. So pledge yourselves to always speak the truth about what needs to be done, about who you are, about what we need to do. The plain, unvarnished truth may not always be easy, as Mr. Smith learned when he went to Washington. If you haven't, by the way, watched that movie at least once a year, you need to do that. Mr. Smith goes to Washington and speaks the truth to people who don't want to hear it. From the truth stems trust. Trust is a firm belief in the reliability, the strength of a leader. Trust is one of the essential marks of a good leader. Trust does not mean having your club members follow everything that you want them to do. Rather, trust is earned, sometimes over a long period of time, and sometimes in a shorter period of time. Trust grows when others trust you and your leadership, and you trust them in turn to do the job that you need them to do. Trust can be broken. Once it is very, very hard to replace. If you build as a leader a strong base of trust, that mutual trust, and if you earn that trust, then you'll be able to lead other members into paths unknown places yet seen. Truth and trust, I believe, go hand in hand. Good leaders show an abundance of both truth and trust. With truth in mind, I want to turn to another characteristic that I believe to be critical, and that is insight. When I think of leadership, words that begin with I, words like inspiration and influence come to mind. And these are important characteristics of leadership, and ones which should not be neglected. But as I said at the beginning, I wasn't going to talk about the standard characteristics of leadership, but first, those materials I think are important for us as Rotarians. Therefore, the word for me, insight, is very important. It is our capacity to gain an accurate and deep intuitive understanding of another person or another thing. Some may call it intuition, some may call it awareness, some may call it discernment, or any number of other things. I see it as an essential characteristic of all good leaders. Some of the issues all leaders face is that the situation can be complicated, fraught with tension, or just entangled with this thing we call humanity, which means that it's messed up. Leaders who have a strong gift of insight and who work diligently at developing are able to see the issues clearly and untangle the details involved. But that takes an objectivity, it takes a willingness to step back and not be personally involved, so that you can address the problems with a clear and open mind and with clearer eyes. Insightfulness calls for patience. It calls for an ability not to get dragged into the emotional maelstrom and to desire to do what is best for the whole. In therapy, we have a saying that we should listen with the third ear. That means that one listens beyond the words themselves. I believe as leaders, an important characteristic is to see with the third eye, not just what is on the surface, that which is underneath. Insightfulness helps with that considerably. So we want to be as insightful as possible. Exercise patience and objectivity. And with insight, unravel the complexity of the problem before you, and you will personally be a stronger leader than you ever imagined. Patience and objectivity call for insightfulness do not mean that we pass up on the opportunities that present themselves. I like that wonderful old phrase, carpe diem, seize the day. Carpe diem should be the motto for the life of all good leaders. Opportunities are going to come down the pike each and every day. It may be an opportunity to engage this club in a global grant. It may be an opportunity to set ourselves up to work with another club. It may be an opportunity to think about our future in a new and objective way. Yes, there is a certain devil-may-care attitude about carpe diem, because it says we seize the opportunity regardless of tomorrow. But too many of our leaders are worried about the long game and not about doing what needs to be done in the present opportunity that presents itself. Thus, the opportunity is lost and the possibilities are stymied. Now, to be clear, I'm not calling for a degree of recklessness here, but I am calling for us to seize the opportunities when they present themselves, to make something of it. I don't advocate throwing all caution to the wind, but I do offer this challenge. For I believe that any leader passes up an opportunity when it presents itself, who says, let's wait until we see how the wind is blowing, who delays, prevaricates before stepping out into the unknown, scary as it is going to find their leadership weakened and the opportunity lost. So be bold, be brave, believe in carpe diem, seize the day, but that opportunity may not pass the dust again. While that challenge rings before us, I want to lay out one final trait of leadership that I believe is essential, and that is nuance. Now, nuance is not a word often associated with leadership, but I believe it to be critical. Let's be honest. The problems facing our society, our culture, our communities, and our clubs are getting more complex. We live in a world where decision requires judgment, getting others on board, drawing on local knowledge, ingenuity, and commitment. How do we as leaders tackle these complex problems with depth and clarity? I believe that it is with nuance. Now, some leaders know nothing about the nuance. I've always liked the quote from Sir Winston Churchill about John Foster Douglas, your American Secretary of State, who said that Douglas is the only bull I know who carries his own china shop with him. That's a powerful quote. Douglas is the only bull I know who carries his own china shop with him. So I'm not proposing that indeed we go crashing about, not caring about chaos and destruction that is all around you, for that is not leadership. It is a disaster. The very word nuance implies seeing situations in context, considering the subtlety of an issue, exhibiting flexibility of judgment. And I believe nuance is essential in leadership, especially in volunteer organizations like ours. So an acknowledgement of one's shortcomings, a confidence in your gifts of leadership, a recognition of the importance of truth and trust as they present themselves in the opportunities that are given to us, and being nuanced and flexible as you approach your tasks. These are the traits of leadership that I believe to be important. And if you haven't figured it out by now, the traits of leadership form this word action. Because what I really want to talk today about is not these characteristics of leadership. What I really want to talk about is action. We, as Rotarians, are people of action. We as Rotarians are those people who are called to be people of action. I love what John Hooker, you saw his picture a little earlier, in Kerry, our General Secretary, says. He spoke at the time about us coming out of this COVID pandemic and all that it left in its wake. And he said, if there is anybody in the world that is designed to help reconstruct our societies, to help rebuild the work we need to do in our communities, it's us as Rotarians. We are ready for this time. This is our time. And John Hooker said, we were made for this. We were made for this. And if we are made for this, then indeed this is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to be people of action. This is our opportunity to step out when our communities need to be rebuilt. This is our opportunity to help put that well in India, to fix those hearts of those children in the Philippines, to rebuild their communities that have been devastated throughout the world by disease and war. We are people of action. There was a wonderful quote, it was used by the Kennedys, that some people see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? Why not? Why can we not put a well in India, in that village that needs it? Why can we not fix this problem with these children who are dying and suffering? Can we not do all the things that we need to do to rebuild our communities? We can, because we are people of action. We, Rotarians, are people of action. We're drawing this Rotary year to a close, and it's been a great year. We're about to embark on the new year with Kerry as our president. I would ask you, are you willing and ready to support your president? Are you ready and willing to be people of action to support Kerry in the next year of work that we have to do? Are you ready to become people of action in our community? That's not a rhetorical question. I'm asking a question. Are you ready to be people of action?
Yes, good, yeah.
That was weak. That's not an action response. Are you ready to be people of action?
Yeah.
Are you ready to be people of action, to serve as best we can? For we are people of action. Okay? We have a saying up in Pennsylvania where I came from. We are Penn State, sorry. That's the way it is. But it's not what Penn State, what I want to do for Penn State. We are not Penn State, but we are people of action. Don't forget that. Use that, remember that. Think about our leadership as people of action, for we can make a difference. I've said many times, this organization, more than any other in the world, can make a change in people's life each and every minute, each and every day. We are people of action. Because we are people of action, we are the ones who have almost helped defeat and eradicate polio from the face of the earth. When people looked at that problem and said, we can't do that, it's too big. We can't do that because it's impossible. We said we can, and we have almost done it. We are people of action. Will you join me in being people of action in our Rotary year 23-24? Will you become part of the solution, not part of the problem? Will you lead as leaders in Rotary and be effective, make the changes we need to make? Because I believe Rotary is indeed the preeminent organization making a difference in somebody's life each and every minute, each and every day. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Patty,
See, the origin of the Camp We Are Penn State, I'm not sure if you're aware, Patty, is a great leadership story unto its own. Do you know the origin of that?
A little bit.
That's
You're talking to a foreigner who doesn't understand football.
that's a good story then.
Okay. Any other questions? Sorry, I only had one cute picture of me, that's all.
comment, and I guess it leads into a question. One thing that I think for all of us, and especially for me, has been seeing the club this year change for the better in many ways. I think we have, well, with Laura, I think we have 21 or so new members this year. And the club is continually evolving into just looking out here and knowing who's not here, people from all sorts of different backgrounds and walks of life. Grayson, if I can pick on you for a second, not pick on you, but last week, Grayson was nice enough to ask me out for coffee. And we ended up talking for about an hour, and I think that's just one thing we can be proud of in the club, that we have hopefully, the younger members learning from the older members somewhat, and certainly with a role model like Patty, I think that goes a long way. We used to ask him at the end of our coffee, what advice would you give your 23-year-old self? Patty over the side here, 23 years old. It made me feel old, but it was nice to be asked that question though, because I think a lot of us, and it goes both ways. I think a lot of us more mature members have a lot to offer the younger members, and vice versa, with the younger members' ideas and vitality. I guess that leads into a question though, Patty, on a practical basis, especially for our younger members. What leadership opportunities does Rotary, not just our club, but beyond our club, offer to them that they can take advantage of and learn life and professional lessons?
Well, I don't know if you were aware of this, some of you perhaps have gone to our programs, but we have this thing called Rotary Leadership Institute. Rotary Leadership Institute, RLI. We love acronyms, by the way, in Rotary. It's the other thing. We love pins, we love acronyms. I'm thinking of actually starting a new group called Rotarians Against Acronyms. And we use the acronym RAN. But we have this thing called RLI, Rotary Leadership Institute, which is a series of programs at 3 levels, 1, 2, and 3, that enable you to learn leadership skills. I've been a facilitator in RLI for about 8 or 9, 10 years now, more than that perhaps. And I'm now at this area for Rotary Leadership Institute of Mid-Atlantic, which runs all the way from Virginia down into Tennessee. I'm a faculty trainer, so I train the trainers for future leadership. So if you've not had an opportunity to go to an RLI program, there's one in this district each year. And I really do urge you to think about that, because you learn the skills, not just about to be a leader in general, but especially about leadership in Rotary, and what that entails, the information you need to make you an effective leader within Rotary. So if you've not had an opportunity, I'd say take it. It's a good thing to do.
And Patty, you may not be aware of this, but we have just a little tradition for speakers to come. We present them with a cup.
There's one on the back.
Yes, I did, 4 reasons. So this is for your 4 o'clock tea, right?
Tea, right?
Okay. Patty, thank you. This is wonderful. All right, and then we'll lead into the 4-H test, everybody rise, please. Things you think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will be a good bill. Will be beneficial to all. Yeah.